All right, we're all set. Alan, how you doing? Good to see you. Okay, so there's a lot of new faces here today. Not for me, but for the rest of you guys. So we have Shaukat here. Okay, we've got Keaton. We have Shaheen. Chris, we all know. Jit, everybody knows. Yogita and Alan. So it's good to see all of you guys. It's been a very long time since I've seen many of you. Some of you more regularly, which is always good. Today's session is not something that's overly difficult or something that you can't comprehend on your own. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to convey a seminar on open houses because it is very relevant to our industry. And there's no right or wrong way of doing a seminar, but I want to convey some of my experiences so that you guys have some more insight when you're actually conducting them. Okay? Open houses on their own can be full of liability if you do them the wrong way. You can open yourself up to a lot of liability. We've had a lot of scary things happen even at our brokerage, which I'm going to tell you about today. So before we start this section, I want to quickly go over a couple of things. There is a specific listing I want to highlight. Lida and Haroon have co-listed a $1.4 million dental office at Yonge and Finch. So the location is absolutely amazing. It's a fabulous location and it is very much desirable. It's a commercial, it's basically a house that was converted to commercial. In the back they have like 8 or 9 parking spaces. So it's on Finch, right after Yonge, and it's in an ideal location. So it's been rezoned from residential to commercial, and it's currently being operated as a dental office. So if you have anybody in your networks that is looking to open up a second dental office, or someone who's graduating recently from dental school who's looking for an opportunity, or even a lawyer, an accountant, or anybody professional in nature, this is an ideal location, an ideal property. Okay, very desirable. Next thing here, all of you at this point, and if you don't, please let me know, should have office extensions. Everybody have an extension now? So what this is, for those of you that have no idea what the extension is basically a 3 or 4 digit number. So when you call the public choice line directly off 905-471-1181, if you dial that specific number, it's going to ring on your phone directly. So that's as if you're in the office, even though you're not in the office. Okay, it's very professional, looks good. And some of you have activated your extensions. You don't need to activate them, they're already working. But if you activate it using the stuff that we've sent you through your email, then you can actually send and receive faxes. It's a very comprehensive software. So we're paying money for this, and you guys might as well utilize it. I know some of our people are really using it, like Gay is sending faxes constantly through there. And it's a virtual fax, everything comes to your email, so it's something that's very worthwhile. Okay? Next thing, some of you may have noted that any confirmations or bookings and such are now being processed through someone called KG. KG stands for Kirk Goldborn. He's our new front office administrator. Okay, so a lot of the bookings and showings and front office stuff and back office stuff, even he's dealing with now. Okay, because we've grown to about 70 salespeople. It's getting very, very, very busy here. So we want to make sure that we have the right services in place to make sure that the service that you guys are accustomed to doesn't start falling. Okay. I've also had a strategic conversation with the partners here, and we are now thinking that instead of growing the brokerage too large, more than 100 people, we're probably going to cap it at 100 because we want to maintain the quality of the service that we're providing. I think that's why a lot of you are here, and we value that. So instead of getting, are you okay?
I know, I just walked in.
So rather than look at quantity, we want to foster quality here, and I'd rather have a handful of people, 100 people, for example, that are doing good business than take on thousands of people and increase liability for no reason. So that's kind of the direction we're taking now. We don't know, it may change, but this is where we are right now. Okay? Now, let's start with open houses. So this was actually something you guys learned about in phase 1 and phase 3. And just to refresh you, we do open houses for 3 reasons, okay? So the first reason we conduct open houses are because it shows our sincere efforts in selling the home. If you're asking, how you doing? If you're asking for a 5% commission for listing a property, okay, and you're not doing open houses, especially in this kind of a marketplace where you have very quick sales, it seems like you're not doing anything, okay? Now the reality is we're busting our chops behind the scenes to make deals happen. We're working literally 24 hours to make the deals that we do make, but our clients and customers don't see this. They don't see the value in the service we're providing. And that's why I think a lot of people are driving the market into shit, because they make it seem like it's too easy, and they're not charging the rates they should be charging for the services that are being rendered. Okay? So the first thing, it shows a sincere effort. If you're spending 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday, you do that for a month, it's going to show that you're making whatever effort you can. You're exhausting your efforts at least, so you can sell this property. Okay. Next thing, exposure of the property itself. So, concerning exposure, obviously, when you're trying to sell the property on behalf of your client, their mandate, they don't care about anything else. They want to know how many dollars they're getting in the pocket at the end of the day. Okay? So by doing an open house, you're showing them that, look, I've listed the property on MLS, I've flyered, I've put it on Facebook, I've done Twitter, I've done whatever I can, I've made you a beautiful virtual tour and YouTube video and all those things. In addition to that, I've also done open houses to make sure that if there's someone in the local vicinity who might have smaller home, for example, or a larger home, and they're either looking to upgrade or downgrade, you've exposed it to everybody possible. So that way, if you get the deal, it's at the highest point that is possible at that point in time. Okay, so it really shows you're making an effort. Now, the real reason, as far as I'm concerned, that you guys are doing these open houses is so that you can make more money. Okay? Every listing that you obtain should translate, if you're good at what you do, into 3 or 4 other prospects. Okay? So if you do everything the way you're supposed to be doing it, more than likely, a single listing should go 3 ways. Okay? You'll have someone who comes to an open house, for example, and says the house is too small. That's great. If the house is too small, you'll find someone else to buy it, but now you've got a potential person who you can show bigger properties to. Okay? So if you're a born salesperson, or if you're training yourself, one of the things you should be able to do is not take no for an answer. Obviously, don't talk to people in a certain way that they're reluctant to deal with you, but be friendly and open, and you can always turn these kind of prospects into other sales. Okay, it happens constantly as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, now next thing. So there's phases involved in conducting an open house. So you have the before, you have the during, and you have the follow-up and after. Okay, so first things first. What you want to do, even before you take the listing, this is in the preliminary listing interview. That's what I call it. Okay? So before I actually sign a listing, I go in and I see my client, at that point customer, and I interview them. I look at what their expectations are. I want to know if they've listed the home through someone else before, and if they have, why it wasn't successful. What they would want to see me do, what the other salesperson didn't do. Okay? So I want to make sure I tally their expectations and jot them down somewhere, so I know what I'm setting myself up for. Okay? If I've got someone who's got crazy expectations, it's my job and your job to manage those expectations. If you promise them the sun and the stars, and then you give them the moon, they won't be happy. Okay? Even as far as we're concerned, it's a great deal. They will not be impressed by what you've brought them because you've overpromised. Okay? In sales, in this business, you should always underpromise and overdeliver. That's what we teach, and that's what we preach. Okay? Next thing. Once you've decided that you want to take the listing, and 10 times out of 10 you'll take the listing, as long as the prices and other things are reasonable and you talk to them, you're on the same footing. At that point, you've got to understand that what you're selling here is the American dream. Okay? We are in the business of selling the all-American dream. When someone comes into a property, they don't want to see how you're living. They want to see how that perfect American family is living. Okay? So if the house looks anything less than the American dream, I promise you, you will not get fair market value for it. You'll always get less than what it's worth. Unless you have an investor who knows how to turn that property around and make money in return in that way. Okay? So when you walk into the property, if you don't feel like you would want to buy it for yourself, you should automatically have a pen and paper with you and a pad and jot down the things that you would change to the property to make it more saleable. Okay? So some of the examples that I always have, when you go into these older homes, you see those drapes, ugly drapes, 50 years old. Okay, you see the really dark paints that were trendy 15, 20 years ago. Things like that right away, especially those cheap. I have them in my house too and I dislike them, but they're energy efficient. Those cheap, cool white, energy efficient halogen bulbs or whatever they are, they look really crappy, especially when you list a home. When you list a home, you want to get rid of all of the dark space. Okay, so I've often recommended a brand new paint job. Okay, and I tell my clients, spend $1,000 if you have to, but paint it all light yellow or off eggshell. That way it looks more lit and open, and a fresh paint job is going to give you the best return on investment. $1,000 will get you $10,000 in return because the property will show that much better. If you've got smudges and stuff like we have in our office now, it looks kind of bad, and it brings down the value and marketability of that property. Okay, so things like the paint. Okay, if you see that it's too cluttered, you've got all kinds of family pictures and stuff and elephants and these things and these kind of, like whatever it is that's over cluttering the property, it's always recommended that you ask the person to either put it in the garage, okay, and make sure the garage is secured so nothing gets stolen, or take out one of those storage sheds for a month and just unload everything in there. In fact, Delano, one of the properties he sold, he gutted the whole thing. He just took everything out. He left a couple of couches, and everything was thrown into storage. And he got over asking for that property. So it's all about the process. Before the property hits the market, you want to make sure that you've really gone through it yourself and you've cleaned it up so that if you walk through it, you would want to buy that house. If you don't want to buy it, nobody else is going to want to buy it. Okay? Next thing. Always, 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 when you're signing the listing agreement, there's an indemnity clause in that agreement that says that we are indemnified for any kind of loss, any kind of damage that may flow from the transaction, unless it is because of our own gross negligence or our own fault. So we're frivolous in what we're doing, okay? So we are indemnified, okay? Now what that means is if during an open house some jewelry goes missing, they're not going to be able to sue us, technically, unless you can prove that we were grossly negligent or we did something we weren't supposed to do. Okay? That being said, you don't want to end up in a situation like that. We had a situation like that here, okay, where one of our listings, the sellers accused, not us directly, but they were saying that during an open house they found that their jewelry bag was missing. Okay? And our salespeople are trained, so our salesperson knew beforehand to tell them to put all of those things in safekeeping. So anytime you're opening a property up to the public, always have that conversation with the seller and let them know that any personal items that are very valuable should be put into a safe, preferably off of the actual property in a bank, somewhere it's not accessible. Okay? So these kind of things you should be talking about even before you take the listing, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be a fun conversation when the police get involved. Okay? Next point we have here. Now, the preview marketing campaign. So once I've got the listing in hand, I'll always take the listing and I'll take it for 2 weeks following the date that I've met with them. Okay? So my commencement date will be usually 1 to 2 weeks after they've actually signed the documents. Okay? I'll get them to sign everything on that same date, but the commencement date will start the week after. That gives me 1 week to help them clean up the property, market it, get my marketing in place. And usually what I do with my marketing is I'll put up a signboard in front of the property that says coming soon. Okay? You can't say it's for sale because it's not listed yet. As soon as the sign goes up for sale, it's expected to be open to the public. So I'll put up a sign that says coming to the market soon. And with that sign, I'll put a rider with a link to the virtual tour. So if I'm listing 121 Main Street, I'll get the domain 121mainstreet.com and I'll put that on the bottom of the coming soon poster. And as soon as that board goes up, because I have my IT people looking at the website, they'll say, okay, this day you got 5 people who looked at it, this day you got 100 people who looked at it, and I can already track how much attention this property is getting. Okay, and you can in the websites like that, these virtual tour people are very, very good at what they do now. They can have a registration page where the people who see the virtual tour, if they like it, they can put their name and number and everything else in the dialog box, and you can start contacting them directly. Okay, so there's very, very good features out there like this. Okay, now once I've done the virtual tours, I will normally put that board up and I will flyer the neighborhood. Okay, I always flyer approximately 300 to 600 homes in that specific neighborhood, because more than likely you have someone who lives in a house that's close by. The house is either too small or too big. They're looking to either downgrade or upgrade. Alternatively, they have family who's looking to buy in the neighborhood. Okay, and as soon as the house comes up, they want to buy it. A very good example of this is the Brim Horton and Ellesmere area. That whole pocket, there's a whole slew of family of Gujarati people. As soon as the property goes up, it's gone. Their family members take it. Okay, so this is a very real thing, and if you can use that, you can really get good property value there. Okay. Once I've got the flyers and everything done, a couple of days before my actual open house, if I can, I'll take my team and I'll walk through that neighborhood and door knock. Okay. Now we work with BMO. Those of you that are, I mean, all of you should know now, we have open houses with the BMO, Bank of Montreal. And what they'll do with us now is they'll actually door knock with us. And while we're talking about the property, they'll give flyers about their mortgage services that they're providing. Okay, so you have that added benefit, and you have that brand recognition with BMO, and we play off of that, and it's really working out for the people that know how to harness that. Okay. Okay, so that's the preview and making the property presentable. The next thing concerns safety. So as I started out by saying, open houses can be a huge liability. Okay, I've heard of countless stories, and it's actually been reported now. People have been murdered in their properties, people have been raped in these open houses, and people have gone missing in open houses. There was a couple of people that got stabbed in Brampton a month or 2 months ago over some rent money or whatever it is. The whole point is that they're not as safe as they used to be. I think that we've got this aggression amongst Canadians that's recent. Okay, we used to be very nice as a society, but I think things have slightly changed now for some reason or another. but you have to be careful now, okay? So some of the tips that I want to convey to you. First off, when you go into the property, before you do any kind of an open house, try to book an appointment with your clients, okay? And go in for yourself when your client's not there. Try to do it on your own. Make sure when you're walking through the property that your cell phone has full signal, okay? So make sure that you know at which points in the property your cell phone doesn't have signals, okay? This is a very important thing because this is our link to the outside world, especially when you're confined to a space like that, okay? Next thing you want to do is you want to scope out the property. So when I say scope out the property, you want to go through the property and see if you have to run. Again, I'm not trying to scare you here, but you should know where the escapes are, okay? If there's a window you need to jump through, you need to know where it is, okay? You need to know where the back door is, where the front door is. You never want to get stuck in a room with some crazy person, and it can happen, okay? Next thing, have a call-in time. What we recommend here is that the days that you're going to be doing an open house, just give us a heads up, because it'll be on your MLS listing anyways. Give us a quick heads up that I'm doing an open house at this date, this time. Okay, it'll be running from say 11 to 4. Every hour, I'm going to call you. If I don't call you, call the cops. Simple as that. So we expect a call from you every hour, every 45 minutes. And if we miss that phone call, we'll call you. And if no one picks up, we will phone the police. Okay, so that's another provision that we can provide for you guys. Okay. In addition to that, you can always team up with someone. So I know that our salespeople would love to join you for open houses. So if anyone has an opportunity for an open house and you don't want to do it on your own, our team is more than happy to assist you. We have lots of people who have told me personally that they want to assist in open houses. So if you have that kind of an opportunity, let us know and we'll pair you up with someone who can help you sell that property. Okay? Next thing. It is recommended in one of the articles that I read that you should park your car, not in the driveway, but in a place where it is easily accessible and easily maneuverable. So if you get stuck in the driveway, if someone blocks you in, you can't go anywhere. But if your car's on the road, for example, you have an easy in and out. You're not stuck and nobody can box you in. Okay. Next thing, when you do your open house, it's always recommended that you go and knock on the neighbor's door. Okay, both sides, front, back, whatever you have, and let them know, you know, I'm so-and-so from Public Choice. I'm doing an open house here between this time and this time. I parked my car there. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to interrupt you. Seems like you know, you're just going in and being courteous, but really what you're doing indirectly is telling them that's my car. If something fishy is happening, call me. Let me know I'm in the house there, and please come to the open house and see if you like it. You know, it's an informal way of getting them into the house, which is a good thing, but at the same time, they're kind of looking out for you as well because they think you're a friendly person now. And you are. You're all lovely people. That's why you work here. Okay? Next thing. So, day of the open house. First off, timing is critical. Okay? Don't be doing open houses at 7 o'clock in the morning. No one's out looking to go to an open house at 7 a.m. Okay? I think the peak times, as far as my experience tells me, is anywhere between 11 and 4. After 4, things start dying down, unless you're in a property in an area like this where it's constantly, like there's 50,000 cars driving by Markham Road. So if your property's off of Markham Road, maybe you'll do it late evening, even 6 o'clock, because people will still walk through. Depends on the season as well. If it's winter, after 5, forget about it. Okay? If it's summertime, evenings, we still have light, still nice and warm, people will be walking through the neighborhood and they'll be willing to come through. Okay? It depends on the season. Next thing, signage. So one of the questions a lot of our new salespeople ask us, how many open house signs do I need? The guy who's making my signs is giving me 6 or 7. How many do I actually need? My experience tells me that you should have at least 20 signs. Okay? Now I'm not saying you need those A signs, the big heavy metal ones. You need 20 of those signs you can just stick into the ground and forget about. Okay? Obviously you want to go back and collect them afterwards, otherwise you'll get in trouble with the bylaw officers. But 20 is a good number. Okay, and as far as allocation distribution goes, you should always hit the major intersections. Okay, you want one open house sign that is identical to the rest in front of the property itself, next to the for sale sign. Okay, in addition to that, I put these up around my property, and I'll actually, if it's not raining, I'll put bunting on the property just to make it look like a, you know, if you ever drive to a car dealership, it's all like, it looks different. It shows that you're making an effort. Okay, so I'll do stuff like that as well. I'll make sure 20 to 30 signs are out in all the major intersections, and it's guiding people to my property. Okay. Sometimes, and this has happened to me, I'll notice that I haven't had someone come in through the front door in an hour. And what's actually happened is that some assholes decided to take my signs and flip them the other way. Okay? So this is something you wouldn't expect, but people do these kind of things. So it's always advisable that you do these kind of things with partners so that one of you can stay in the property while the other quickly goes checks every 15, 20 minutes to make sure that the signs are all still pointing in the right direction and they're not being changed. Next, messed around with.
When you should book your signs?
I would say 1 hour before. Okay, and you want to give yourself enough time because you don't want to step into the property all sweaty and smelly after you've done a job like that. You want to give yourself time to cool down. Okay, so an hour before is usually good enough. And on the open house sign, what I usually do is I leave a blank space where I can write the actual time and the actual address, and I put it so that I can erase it. I use these white erase markers. Okay, so then that way I'll write the time, I'll write the date, and I'll write the property address so people know, okay, it's going to happen in about 20 minutes, and they'll give themselves enough time. I usually have my brother or my dad help me out. So I'll be at the property prepping the property, and they'll be out putting my sign. Okay? So you can do it like that as well, so you don't end up getting too stinky or too sweaty or anything like that.
What if you do it on Wednesday, for example, if you have open house on Tuesday?
It can be done.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
one agent has done that, which he's a very successful agent, and somebody asked the owner, because the owner's friend was listing the house before, and
Yeah.
the house didn't sell, and then he went to somebody else.
Yeah.
When he did that, he's like, what was the difference that this guy sold it fast in like 2 weeks? They said because they put the sign on Wednesday and ahead of time, and in the second week it just got sold.
So it depends on the market. It depends on the strategy that you're implementing. If you put signs up too far in advance, you might have people who randomly show up at the property who think there's an open house when there isn't one. That's one thing that can happen there. A lot of the times your signs will also get stolen. If you leave it Wednesday for Saturday, more than likely they're going to get picked up. Okay? Again, if you're spending huge money on the A signs, which nobody buys anymore, that's one thing. If you're buying those stick-in ones, literally $2 or $3 a piece, it's okay. But the last thing you want is any kind of bylaw enforcement officer calling you and saying that we want to remove your sign from here, and then they pick everything up and trash it. And then even the day of the open house, they say, well, you can't put them up anymore. You don't want to piss anybody off. It depends on the situation, though. Okay, that could be just a lucky guy.
Actually, I got pulled over by a police officer last Thursday.
Oh yeah?
Because I was going door knocking on
Yeah.
139 Finch Avenue, so I was going there, and the police pulled me over. He's like, oh, I got a complaint that you were going door to door and you were trying to open the door with
Oh
the
my
key.
goodness, oh my goodness.
And I took out my car, I'm a real estate agent. Is it illegal now to do door knocking?
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, things like that. I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
he went to his car and he saw everything was legal, so he let it go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, people are getting very, very, it's an interesting marketplace.
I was so scared.
Yeah,
He's like, why
yeah.
do you look so scared? I was like, I'm scared of police.
Yeah. Things like that will happen now. It'll happen. So yeah, I mean, just do what you got to do. Be professional and be civil, and it won't be a problem. Okay. Next thing that we want to talk about quickly here. So have your escape plan. Okay, we talked about all of this. Timing and signage is good. Okay. Yeah, another thing you can also do is if you can't partner up with someone, or if you don't want to at that point, I've always done this in the past as well if I'm alone, if I can't manage to get someone else with me, I'll print out signs beforehand from the office or from home that say, for example, be right back, right? And I'll lock the door, and I'll go out and I'll check my signs myself. Okay, so I'll drive by myself and I'll check it and make sure everything is good. If I haven't heard anybody walk in for a long time, I'll do that because more than likely someone's messed around with my signs. Okay? Okay, now, next thing we have here. So the actual open house itself. On the day of the open house, make sure you get there a little bit in advance. So if there's something that's not clean, you can have it fixed up, okay? You're opening up the property to the general public. If it doesn't present well, it won't do well, okay? If people come in and it smells like hardcore food, it's not gonna go very well, okay? What I recommend usually is, and I've done this in the past, I'll bake cookies, okay? I'll bake cookies. I'll buy those Pillsbury dough cookies. I'll cut them and I'll just bake them because it puts that smell in the house. So people come in and it smells like cookies. It smells very homely, and it sells it. Like it really does the job as far as I'm concerned. Okay.
My agent was bringing candles, those candles from Body Shop.
Yeah.
They smell,
Be careful with candles because you can light stuff on fire.
yeah,
Okay.
so one agent brought it.
Yeah.
It was surprising.
Yeah. I actually went to a very nice property that was recently renovated and gutted. I was showing the client properties, and the agent, what they had done, in every room they had one of those airwick things. Like the whatever. So it smelled really nice. The whole, like from the time you entered the property, you're like, wow. And then she had like her business cards laid out with the flyers for the property and everything else. And she had a little bowl with granola bars in it, Nutrigrain bars. And she had a little handwritten card that says, feel free to help yourself to granola bars. There's also juice and water in the fridge. And that was a very memorable experience for me and my clients because we're like, this is a sincere effort. Someone's making a real effort here. And the property sold. It sold well over asking. It was just the whole thing. You know, like I said, you turn a listing into multiple listings by doing stuff like that. You're doing things that are different, right? You're not just, you're putting a little bit of money, but that goes a really, it goes the distance. People see the effort there. Okay, so that was really nice. Next thing, ensure that all the lights are on and the curtains are wide open, okay? Some people don't like to leave their curtain wide open because they think that there's too much light coming into the property, but there's a safety thing there. If the curtains are wide open, then people can see inside the house, which is good for you at that point, okay? Also, you want to make sure all the lights are on because, for example, I showed a kitchen to one of my clients, and we didn't realize, but there was like fancy lighting underneath the counter as well. So there's renovations like this that really add value. So if everything is on, you don't miss anything, right? So someone who's walking through, they'll be like, I wish there were pot lights, and really there are pot lights, they're just off. And nobody realizes that. So turn everything on, make sure the blinds are open, there's nice natural light coming in, it'll be good for you, okay? Next thing, the property, you've got to treat it like it's your own. Don't let people go through it with their shoes unless it's like a, you know, something that's gut. And you're allowed to take your shoes through it and make it messy. Otherwise, people should be removing their shoes and they should be very clean that way. Okay. Next thing, so limiting your liability. First thing I want to note is that you should always be civil and professional. Those are the two things here: civil and professional. Okay. Always treat people in a professional manner. Don't be rude with anybody. Don't be abrasive with anybody. You don't know who you're going to end up working with in the future, especially salespeople. In fact, one of our listings that we recently posted today, or it was yesterday, some salesperson from the company that he transferred from, ironically, knocked on the door that he had listed, the property that he listed, trying to solicit that client's business directly. And then she booked an appointment after the fact. So I told him, I'm like, well, you might end up working with her in the future. And obviously you were ex-colleagues because she used to work with you at the same company that you defected from. So in a polite way, tell her that my clients didn't appreciate you showing up at the door unannounced, and any communication in the future should be through my brokerage or through myself directly. Okay? So be professional. You don't need to be rude to anyone because you don't know when you're going to end up with them in another deal. Okay? So be very careful how you deal with the public and other people in the industry. So the indemnity I have talked about. Okay? So unless it's willful or reckless or negligent, on our part, we are indemnified as per the listing agreement. Okay? We're not held to the standard of doctors or lawyers or accountants or anybody special. We are held to the standard of a we're held to the standard of a reasonable and competent real estate sales representative. Okay? So if you do something and you end up in front of the tribunal or court, the judges are going to ask, what would a salesperson do in a like situation? Okay? A reasonable and competent salesperson, what would they have done in a like situation? Okay? As long as you pass that test, more than likely you won't be in any kind of trouble. But if they say that the reasonable and competent salesperson would have done something differently from what you did, you will be responsible more than likely. Okay? So that's the standard we're held to. Okay? Next thing, be proactive. I think I have enough of these. I'm going to pass them around. If you don't mind, just take one and just pass it behind you and beside you. This is our open house guest registration sheet. This is available through web forms, which all of you guys are using. Okay? This is where all of our forms are. So this this open house guest registration is the first thing you should be giving to anybody who shows up at the property. Okay? You'll ask them to fill it out. And one thing that's very important is that as these are being filled out by the parties that are coming in, I always recommend that you take a note of the car that drove in and the license plate if you can get it. Okay? And you'll always put that on the back. And as these are filled out, don't put them in the same folder where all the fresh ones are. Put them in a separate folder because we have privacy legislation that governs us. You don't want people knowing that someone else that they know saw the property. Okay? You want to be as confidential as possible. So anything that is filled out on here should go in a separate folder. Preferably you've got some kind of a briefcase that you can throw these into and close as you're doing your showings. Okay? Next point we have here. Yeah. So when someone walks through the front door, the first question as you're smiling should be, are you currently under representation? That's also a question on there, but you should be asking them up front, because if you don't get the chance to read this while you're showing the property to them, you want to know up front what the status quo is with them. Okay? So if they are represented, don't try to solicit their business. If they're a customer, however, do whatever you can to get them. Okay? That is your mandate at that point. You're not doing the open house for fun. In addition to trying to sell it, you're trying to make more business, okay? So if you put on a very pleasant open house, it smells nice, it looks nice, it's showing well, you're well dressed and kept, and then more than likely, if the customer says, I don't like this property because it's too small or too big, you can get their email, you've got this consent form already signed by them, and you can start soliciting them, okay? So that is how you start generating leads from these kind of things, okay? Next thing. My recommendation is that you don't take more than 4 or 5 people maximum through the property at one time. Okay? I always put a sign on the door that says showing in progress. Please ring bell and someone will be right with you. Okay? And as I'm doing the showing, I always lock the door. Okay? Now, what I've learned and what I've read as well, just based on experience, I always let them go through the house on their own, and I'll lead them. So I'll say, for example, here's the kitchen, or here's the bedroom, and I'll stand behind them at all times. I'll never go in front of them where I can't see them. Okay? So always be behind the people that you're guiding and gesture them. So this is the bedroom. Okay? Let them go into the bedroom, which is, you can't escape from it, but at least if you're outside, they're inside and you can run.
That's a mistake I always make.
Yeah, so don't end up in the room yourself.
I thought about everything.
Yeah, just say, here's the bedroom, take a look, let them go in, and you stay at the door. Okay, that way they have their privacy, they feel comfortable, and you're not in a position where you have to kind of awkwardly look back and see where they are. And you're not walking backwards like this either and falling down a flight of stairs. Okay, so these are small things that really make a difference when you're doing this kind of thing. Okay, next thing, children. I hate children at open houses. Okay, kids that start running around in the property are kids that are going to steal things. Okay, they don't do it because they want to steal it, but if they see a nice little toy, they're going to put it in their pocket. Okay, and they have no intention to steal from anybody, but they're children. They don't know any better. Okay, so what I always tell people that have kids, I say that we've got to keep your kids together because my insurance regulates all of this that I'm doing. So if I breach my insurance, I may end up in a liable. I may be liable for some kind of breach. Okay, and I just say that because really, if I get sued, it's true. My insurance might say, well, a reasonable and reasonable and competent salesperson wouldn't have let children run around the house. What happens if the kid falls down a flight of stairs? Now all of a sudden you're going to be in a situation. So to avoid all of that, you ask the parents to keep the children with them, and you keep the group together. You don't let, for example, the husband's upstairs, the wife is downstairs, you're in between. It doesn't work. Okay, guide them all together. Okay. Next thing. Some people have done this. I don't think you need to do this. I think whatever I've given you so far is more than enough, but some people will have their laptop with them and they'll have a Skype session with someone in the background that's constantly going. I think it's a bit much, but I know some salespeople that are doing open houses at the same time. They'll have Skype sessions at the same time. So while they're doing the open house, if something sounds funny, you can look out for one another. Again, our team is more than happy to go with you. So if you have a situation, I don't think you need to go that far. It's an extreme, but that's something that's out there. Okay. Now, once you've done the open house, sometimes it can be a bit discouraging because you had one showing, okay, or maybe you had 100 showings. It varies, okay? It won't make a difference if it's 1 or 100. It depends on how you follow up and your technique in following up. These forms are giving you some kind of consent. Instead, it's an express consent once they've signed it and authorized you to call them, okay? So, in addition to telling your sellers, if it's only one person who shows up or no people show up, be honest and candid and be like, well, this is probably why nobody showed up. My signage was out there, but whether it's bad, it's raining, or it wasn't a good day. Whatever it was, you're going to do another open house, and that shouldn't deter you from proceeding with this transaction. Okay? Now, obviously, don't solicit people or follow up with people you don't have authorization to contact. If they've said expressly, don't contact me, don't call them. Otherwise, you'll end up in trouble. Okay, and now we have the do not call list. We've got the anti-spam legislation. All kinds of stuff that is just, it's not nice. Okay. Now, a lot of times people will ask me, how many open houses should I do? There's no magic number. Okay. If the property's hot, after the first open house, you get an offer. If it's not hot, if it's a dead market, it'll take 5 or 6 open houses. Now, if you're 3 months into the listing, I don't think there's any point in doing any more open houses. Okay. Usually the first month, you'll do open houses alternate weekends. Okay, so 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, skip the weekend and then go the next one. That's usually how you'll do it. It depends, again, on how crazy your sellers are and how much of an effort you want to make, because again, every time you do an open house, people are walking through. This is business potential for you. Okay. I know in the past, I've gotten really fancy with these things. In one of my open houses, what I ended up doing was I took a tent, I put a table there, and I had a couple of people with me from the team, and we had a barbecue. Okay. I had the flags out, I had the streamers and everything going, so it became kind of like a block party. Okay, you're not obviously going to serve alcohol and stuff like that. That's a bad idea, but these things are starting to become more and more trendy. Okay, so you'll do a small thing at the house where you've got barbecue, you're giving out corn or whatever it is. It brings people in. You might spend $100 or $200 or even $500, but that neighborhood will never forget that open house. And if you do the follow up properly, you flyer that neighborhood properly, and you go door knocking after that, you will get more listings in that area because you were a memorable realtor, okay? And that will make a huge difference. Okay. Next point we have here is our Bank of Montreal open houses. So this is not related to the actual topic of open houses, but every week or every other week we have connections with the Bank of Montreal now, and they allow us to go into their actual branch location where they open their doors to us and we can have a table there. We set up the table with our own logos and everything else, and we have a big banner that says Public Choice, and 3 to 4 people go out on each of these open houses, and we're allowed to engage with the customers that are going to the bank for whatever they're doing. They're paying mortgages or depositing money or withdrawing. These are excellent opportunities, especially for people who are looking to prospect. I encourage them because if anything, you're getting a ticket that has an email address on it, okay? And it gives you a little bit of information as to when these people are looking to buy or sell, if they are at all, okay? Worst case, you get an authorization from them and you throw them into an email database, and every 2 weeks you're sending them an email, this is what's happening in the market, so you're constantly in their face, okay? So if you're looking for that kind of an opportunity, we have them as well. So just call us at the office and let us know you want to do the open house and we can set that up, okay? I'm just going to quickly make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, do you guys have any questions or any feedback or insight that you want to convey? Okay, and next thing, as far as the next training session is concerned, do you guys have anything that you would want me to present? Any specific topic, any areas that you're interested in learning about that I can research for you?
I'd say marketing.
Marketing? Okay, there's a training video on that. Have you seen it?
No, yeah.
Check that one out, but I can put together another marketing one. Okay, and also any kind of feedback you have, email it to me, call me, whatever it is. So then that way for the next one, I know what you guys want to hear about as well, and we can make the session according to that. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. There should have been coffee. I think Wasim is probably coming now with the coffee.
Probably drank it all.
Well, let's see. We'll find out. So if you want to